They knew the phone call that he had, or phone calls he had, with the Russian ambassador were appropriate. They knew, or certainly the FBI knew, that there was no there there. In fact, the FBI recommended that it be shut down. There was no credible information. Justifying the then unprecedented spy operation against Flynn and Trump. Yet they continued it at Comey's insistence, and it looks like seemingly at Barack Obama's insistence. I think first up, I'll talk about what most recently happened this week in terms of Sally Yates going before the Senate Judiciary Committee finally to testify on Obamagate. And the committee is run by Senator Lindsey Graham. And, they tried to ask her some tough questions. And she's a smart lawyer. She's been doing this for 30 years as a prosecutor, more or less. So she's not going to be easily rolled, and nor was she. But it was interesting in the sense that Sally Yates clearly tried to throw James Comey under the bus in a disingenuous way, which of course much of the media misses, but something that I think I wanted to alert that you should know about, which is that if you hadn't watched the testimony, she was asked, did James Comey go rogue in going to the White House or authorizing the questioning, that ambush interview of Michael Flynn, General Flynn, without the FBI's telling senior officials at the White House that it was going to take place, given the White House counsel's lawyer heads up or something else. Instead, they used, and Comey, and you can look up the video online, Comey boasted of taking advantage of the lack of experience by the incoming administration to go around the rules and send in these FBI agents in to ambush Flynn. Now, Yates objected to that because she thought the procedure should have been followed, but she was saying, well, it didn't necessarily make it illegal. Of course, we'll argue over that. But you have to, and then she said, then she was asked, do you think that he went rogue? And she said, yeah, I think that's a term you can use. Well, let's not overstate or understate Yates' involvement in this. Her disagreement with Comey was a tactical one. In principle, she was on board with the targeting of General Flynn, with trying to interfere with the president's ability to conduct foreign affairs by targeting improperly his national security advisor with harassing investigations and smears. Remember, they knew the phone call that he had, or phone calls he had, with the Russian ambassador were appropriate. They knew, or certainly the FBI knew, that there was no there there. In fact, the FBI recommended that it be shut down. There was no credible information. Justifying the then unprecedented spy operation against Flynn and Trump. Yet they continued it at Comey's insistence, and it looks like seemingly at Barack Obama's insistence. So, for instance, Yates was pushing this Logan Act crap with the White House as well, at least the Trump White House, when she first was going over there to talk about General Flynn. And it's pretty clear he wasn't lying about the phone calls, even though they suggested that he was. And it's pretty clear that Sally Yates took the extraordinary legal position that an incoming national security advisor would be violating the Logan Act and talking to foreign leaders about the potential policies of his new boss, the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Obviously, that can't be the case, and it's absurd. It was pretextual. They were thinking of a way to spy on Trump, spy on Flynn, and Logan Act was something they came up with to justify the continued harassment. And the other aspect of Yates's testimony, which I think was bunk, was her argument that, well, I did look at the FISA warrant application that I think she signed off on either one or two of them. I don't recall now. But she says she read them. And she says, well, she had known that the dossier, there were these problems with the dossier and that there was lies and misdeeds and material omissions, you name it. She wouldn't have signed it. Well, that's falsely suggests that the dossier, that the applications themselves were appropriate. Look at them. Judicial Watch obtained them through the Freedom of Information Act, through a lawsuit. Look at them. And you'll see on their face they were absurd. You'll see on their face they were full of rumor and innuendo. You'll see on their face they were obviously coyly written to distract and raise more questions than answers. Certainly you'll see that there was nothing in the dossiers warranting a spy operation against the president's team. Now, I know it was about Carter Page, but you can just look at the applications. It was about Donald Trump. They were going through Page to get Donald Trump. So when Yates and Rosenstein also said something similar in his testimony before the committee, say, well, if they only had known, they wouldn't have signed on to it. No, they should have known, because the documents themselves raised enough questions for them to say, what is going on here? I'm not signing on to this. This is obviously silly. Who are you fooling? Who are you fooling? And I tell you what, Yates and Rosenstein aren't fooling me. They're not fooling me, and I don't think they're going to fool you in saying that if they only knew. They did know, and they had reason to know that the applications were fraudulent. And I don't know what John Durham is doing, but it doesn't seem to me he's doing enough necessarily to investigate this. No indication, for instance, that Yates has been called to testify before a grand jury as well as she should have been. What about all these other folks, Clinton and Biden and Obama and Comey and Brennan? No indication there's anything serious going on there. In fact, the indications are, again, further this week. The noise is there's going to be a report. I could give you a report. We have a book coming out. Read our book. You don't need the you don't need a Durham report. Read the Judicial Watch book. I'm sure Durham will have some dirty details we don't, but we know the broad outlines of the story, don't we? Where are the prosecutions? Where are the prosecutions? And I suspect that John Durham is only going to prosecute or get plea deals from that FBI lawyer, the agent who supposedly manipulated the FISA warrant application material from the CIA to say that Page was not an asset when in fact he was an asset and a patriot. You know, maybe that's something he'll go after. I don't know. Maybe he'll go after Strzok. I'm hopeful that Strzok is still a target, but I don't seeing any evidence that that's the case. Comey is going to be writing a new book. Does that sound like someone who's nervous about a prosecution? Did Sally Yates to you seem nervous about a prosecution? Do any of these people seem nervous about a prosecution? We had the Attorney General of the United States, General Barr, a few months ago, talk about that Biden and Obama essentially have nothing to worry about. They're not going to be investigated. They're not under investigation. In the least, they are witnesses. I think they ought to be under investigation, but in the least, they're witnesses. I mean, think of that Oval Office meeting about the Logan Act. Oh, Yates, by the way, says that Biden didn't mention the Logan Act. So, well, I guess we'll have to ask Biden now directly, right? Figure out what happened. Or ask Strzok directly, figure out what happened. It was his notes that said Biden mentioned the Logan Act. Biden was in on the targeting of Flynn. That's pretty clear. No matter how you slice it. So I don't know what Senator Graham's going to do. Practically speaking, the Senate term is over. They go on vacation for a few more weeks. They come back. And then there's another 4 weeks or so before they go back out to campaign prior to the election. So these hearings, I guess you can take credit for them. Judicial Watch can take credit for them because you can bet Senator Graham got some significant pushback on his failure to do anything, and now he's been doing some hearings, which are better than nothing. Better than nothing. But I know you want grand juries. I know you want a serious criminal prosecution. And look, I don't know if they can make a case one way or another. That's not the issue. The issue is, are they doing the things indicating that they're investigating it sufficiently. And if they draw the conclusion they draw, you know, we can complain about it, we can disagree with it, but at least you will have seen, well, you know, at least they brought them all in before the grand jury. They didn't give them time. They didn't give them the special treatment they gave the Clinton gang. It seems to me like they still are treating the other side with kid gloves here. And the other side being the gang that tried to spy on the president, the gang that spied on the president illegally, in my view, tried to put an innocent man in jail and abuse the law in ways never seen before in American history. Why doesn't Senator Graham bring Barack Obama in to testify, or Joe Biden? You know what? Why don't you call Senator Graham and ask him that? You can call 202-225-3121, ask for his office. Call your individual senator, say, why is Senator Graham not bringing in Barack Obama to testify? Well, you say, well, the former presidents can't testify. Sure, yes, they can. Ford testified. President Ford testified. Certainly, Bill Clinton testified before a grand jury. He was interviewed. President Trump rightly refused to, well, I guess he probably couldn't have fought it in the end, but Mueller knew, for all the abuse of Trump, he knew enough that he didn't have enough to force the president of the United States to testify. I mean, that shows you just how weak his investigation was. You don't think Mueller would have forced Trump to testify if they thought he had him? They didn't have anything. There's nothing preventing President Obama from testifying. There's nothing preventing Vice President Biden from testifying. And I don't think they should be immune from investigation. We're doing investigations. We've got 6 lawsuits on Joe Biden. We just sued. I don't remember if I talked about this last week. Well, I'll talk about it again. We just sued to find out where Hunter Biden has been. We have 6 additional lawsuits to figure out what was going on with Burisma and China and Joe Biden. State Department slow walking the release of all those documents. Why isn't Biden under investigation for that? This is the rule for Republicans, and this is the rule for Democrats. The rules for Republicans is you're under investigation when you're running for president, after you're president. If the FBI wants to spy on you, they can. The NSA, CIA wants to spy on you, they can. They will do everything under their power. They will impeach you for even asking questions about their illegal activities. If you're a Democrat, if you're running for president, you get immunity. All your people get immunity like Hillary Clinton did. And then if you lose, you get immunity again because, oh, well, you know, she lost. So what difference does it make if we investigate her or not? So the rule for Joe Biden can't be because he's running for president, he's immune from the rule of law. But that's the way they want it. That's the way it's working right now under General Barr, and I think it's unacceptable. And now I know General Barr doesn't want the Justice Department to be seen to interfere with elections. Well, maybe he's between a rock and a hard place there, or catch-22. But because by doing nothing in the face of evidence of criminal corruption, you are interfering. Doing nothing is doing something, which means letting someone off the hook who otherwise would be subject to investigation if they're a regular American citizen. I'm not saying Joe Biden's above the law or beneath the law and deserves a prosecution just because I may disagree with him on a policy or two. But I'm tired of these leftists in town, part of the deep state, part of the left-wing establishment elite, being treated differently by federal law enforcement. I'm tired of it. And it's corrupt. And we'll see what happens. But be prepared to be disappointed by John Durham. You'll get a nice report. We'll have some interesting information in it, but that, as my father used to say, that in a quarter will get you a cup of coffee. And obviously that won't even get you a cup of coffee anymore. Unbelievable.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.